Hello and good morning, my amazing class. As you all know, I am out today, but I will be back on Monday, I promise. All right, guys, I'm sure you've already made the acquaintance of your amazing sub, but I wanted to go ahead and go through our math lesson for the day together, so hang tight. Not only is this a recording, but then we're recording the recording. All right, guys, this is what we're going to be working on today, simplifying expressions with positive exponents and simplifying expressions with zero exponents. And by zero exponents, I mean the number zero, not no exponents. All right, guys, let's take a look at our first two examples here. Up here we have a negative number. Oop, come on, pen, write for me. A negative number to the third power, or cubed. Down here for number 2, we have a positive number to the fourth power. That one doesn't have a fancy name that I know of. Let's look up at our negative 6 cubed, or our negative 6 to the third power. Now this one we really want to pay attention to because we have a negative number. When you're working with exponents, it's really important to notate where the negative symbol is. When it's inside of the parentheses, that means that we're going to be multiplying negative 6 on itself, however many times the exponent says. And in this case, it's a 3. So right now we're just going to expand these. We're not going to solve them yet, but let's go ahead and expand a negative 6 cubed, or negative 6 to the third power. That's going to be negative 6 times negative 6 times negative 6. Down here in the second one, that's where I'm at now, we have a positive 2 to the fourth power. Again, I don't know, fancy name. If anybody knows, let me know. All right, so what that means is we're going to multiply negative 2, or excuse me, scratch everything I just said. We're going to multiply 2, positive 2, by itself 4 times. So if we expand that out, that gives us positive 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. All right, for this next example, we are going to simplify 5 cubed. And when we are simplifying an exponent, come on, pen, there we go. When we're simplifying an exponent, we are going to first expand it, and then we are going to solve it. So we're going to find the numerical equivalent of 5 cubed. Step 1, I'm going to rewrite my 5 cubed over here, 5 cubed. All right, so our first step is to expand. All right, so what is the expanded form of 5 cubed? I'm going to wait 10 seconds. You guys put your answers in the chat, and then you can check and see if you're correct. All right, so expanded form of 5 cubed is 5 times 5 times 5. So our next step is we're just going to multiply some 5s together and find our answer. So here is step 2. I'm going to write it way over here. So first step, we got to multiply 2 of our 5s together. We're still going to go left to right, even though this is all multiplication, because it's a good habit to be in. 5 times 5 is 25. And then we bring down everything we haven't done yet. Now we're at 25 times 5. We can type it into our calculator, because remember, calculators are allowed in class. Or we can just know that 5 times 5 is 125. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to funnel problem that down and write 125, and always circle my answer. Oh no, it's fractions. Whatever shall we do? Okay, don't panic. You see fraction, don't panic. That's the first step. Step number 2. We're going to break it up. So let's take a look at this guy. Now again, we're made to simplify. Let me get my pen going. And so we need to expand this fraction exponent and then solve it. All right, first thing, I'm going to rewrite it over here. So I have 2/3 squared. All right, fractions with exponents are a lot easier to deal with than they may seem, I promise. Okay, so let's take it one step at a time. First thing is we need to distribute, okay, distributive property, very similar. We're going to distribute the 2 to our numerator or number on top and our denominator or the number on the bottom. So our next step, and I'm going to do this with a little equal sign with an arrow, is going to look like this. We have 2 squared over 3 squared. We just split it up just like that. And then from there, we're going to expand the top, expand the bottom, and simplify our fraction. So again, for this one, since we have 2 sides, a top and a bottom, a numerator, denominator, I'm going to use the equal sign with the arrow to show our next step. So our numerator will look like this. So if we expand out 2 squared, that's going to be 2 times 2. And then we put it over our expanded 3 squared, 3 times 3. All right, now I'm going to do a big arrow so we have more room. Hopefully you guys don't have to do this because you have much more room in your notebook, because we've all been taking notes this whole time, right? All right, and we're going to come down here. So I'm going to rewrite it just so we're not all over the place. 3 times 3. I should have gotten rid of that line in the middle. All right, now simply, what is 2 times 2? Pour those answers into the chat, guys. We know 2 times 2. It's 4. And then I'm sure half of you have already given me the answer to the bottom. 3 times 3, 9. And then you take a look at your fraction. 4 over 9, 4/9. Can that be simplified? No, it cannot. It is already in its simplest form, so there's nothing more we need to do for this problem. Okay. Now we have 2 that look incredibly similar, but they are going to give you very different answers. Let me pull out my pointer real quick. Laser pointer. So up here, okay, we have a -5 inside of some parentheses to the 4th power. And then down here, we have a -5, but there's no parentheses involved, also to the 4th power. Something very interesting happens to the 2 of these, and they will have different answers. So when we have parentheses, and everybody please make sure you get this in your notes. When you have parentheses, that means that you are going to be multiplying this whole negative number by itself, however many times over the exponent says. In this case, it's a 4. Down here is a little bit different. Down here, with your negative symbol and no parentheses, you treat it like this. What does that mean? We take positive 5 to the 4th power, regular 5 to the 4th power, and then we make it negative. We multiply it by a -1. All right, so these are going to give us different answers because when we have a positive exponent and a negative number, our answer is always positive. This one is going to be multiplied by -1 at the end, so the answer must be negative. Let's take a look at the expanded form of this one first. So here we have parenthesis, -5, close parenthesis, to the 4th power. That means that we are going to be multiplying our -5 by itself 4 times over. Now, if we think about those properties of, multiplying and dividing negative numbers, we know when we multiply a negative by a negative, it becomes, chat it, it becomes a positive. So -5 times -5 is positive 25. So then if that happened over here, obviously that's going to give us the same answer, another positive 25. And then positive 25 times positive 25 is probably some common number that I should know by heart, but you know what? I don't have everything memorized. I'm going to use a calculator. Just so I can double check. Yeah, it's 625. So 25 times 25 is our next step. Let's funnel it down. 625 and circle our answer. All right, so that one worked out just like the previous example we did. But let's take a look at what happens to this guy on bottom. So if we start the way that it naturally looked in the beginning, let me see. Does PowerPoint let me have an eraser? It does. All right, let me just erase those really quick so we can see exactly what it looked like before. All right, so remember this one tells us not to apply the negative until the end. At the end, exclamation point, because it's important. So we are going to be multiplying 5 by itself 4 times and then multiplying that by the negative. So your step 1 is going to look like this. Negative sign out in front. Then your parenthesis. 5 times 5 times 5 times 5. Close her up. This means that we're going to complete what is in the parentheses, PEMDAS. Then we're going to multiply that by a -1. Why a -1? Well, because remember there's all of those invisible ones that hang out all over math. So let's complete this one. So we already know that 5 multiplied by itself 4 times is 625. We figured out that before by going 5 times 5 is 25. And then 5 times 5 over here is another 25. And then we multiply those together for our last step. Oop, what did I forget? I forgot to bring down everything I haven't used. 25 times 25 is 625. Make it a negative. And then we can either leave it like this because the parentheses are fine, or we can write it without the parentheses and it's negative 625. Now we've come to the rule of 0. And I can promise you this is going to be your favorite rule in math. Favorite rule. It's a good one. Let me get my pen. Now, while I'm getting my pen all ready and prepared, does anybody know the exponent rule of 0? All right, I don't really know if you guys are answering me. I'm on video, but I certainly hope some of you did answer. If you don't, though, don't worry about it because we're going to go over it right now. It is when something is to the 0 power, the answer is 1. That's it. What does that mean? Well, in a nutshell, what do you guys think 2 to the 0 power is? I like to slash my zeros sometimes so we know they're not O's. Yeah, okay, so yeah, I really hope a lot of you said 1 because it's 1. All right, so let's look at 20 to the 0 power. What do we think that is? Yeah, it's also 1. 200 to the 0 power? Yeah, it's still 1. 5,428,614 to the 0 power. Yeah, it's still 1. It's not a trick question. It's totally still 1. It doesn't matter how big the number is. It doesn't matter how small the number is. Let's do a fraction to the 0 power. 2/3 to the 0 power. Yeah, it's still 1. It's still 1. It's all still 1. Everything is 1. You see a 0 in the exponent? Your answer is 1. Practice time, and we're going to get 10 seconds to answer these 2 questions. The first one is, what is 2/5 to the 0 power? Oh, you guys get more than 10 seconds because my pen wasn't ready. 2/5 to the 0 power. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Chat 'em, guys. Yeah, it's 1. How about 5 to the 0 power? Don't spam the chat with the ones, guys. We all know that it's 1. Good job. All right, guys, now we have some exponent terms to subtract here. Our first term is 4 to the 0 power. We all know what that's going to be. And our second term is 2 squared, or 2 to the second power. And that one's pretty easy too. So let's see how we expand these and then solve it so we can simplify this expression. All right, step 1, rewrite your equation. 4 to the 0 power minus 2 squared. All right, now step 2 is going to be, let's take a look at PEMDAS real quick, because are we going to do exponents or subtraction first? I don't remember. So I'm going to write out PEMDAS as many times as I need to. And I'm going to look that I have exponents and I have subtraction. Clearly exponents comes first. So we always want to start at the left within our groups. Why? Because it's a good habit. So we have 4 to the 0 power. That is going to be 1. And then we're going to bring down our minus sign because we're not dealing with that one yet. And then we're going to come over here and we're going to expand our 2 squared. 2 times 2. All right, now we can solve that. We got 2 times 2, and that's simply 4. Now we're fully at our step 2. So we're done with exponents. We're going to come down here and do our subtraction. So you see here we have a 1 minus a 4. There's a couple different ways you can handle integers here, okay, but the easiest way would be to count back or to use a number line. You can use the same signs add, different signs subtract method, any method at your disposal. Now, if you're still stuck on integers, we're going to have a wing class all about these next week. But 1 minus 4 is going to bring us into negative territory, 3 spaces from the 0, so it is going to be negative 3. Run! Hide! The decimals are coming! Okay, no, I know, I'm silly. Okay, guys, we have a decimal to deal with. Now, this is where I highly encourage taking out your handy dandy calculator, whether that's the Google calculator embedded on your computer. It could be the calculator on your nifty phone like I use, or it can be an awesome 5-function calculator standalone. That's what I recommend. I need to find mine. I lost it over the summer. All right, so I got my calculator at the ready to handle these decimals when we get to that step, but we can't do that yet because first we need to do what to the exponent? What's that word? I've said it a few times now. Are we getting it in the chat? That's right, guys, it's expand. We need to expand this exponent. All right, step 1, I'm gonna rewrite it. So I have 2.5, or 2 5/10 to the 3rd power, or cubed. When I expand this, I just do it exactly the same way that you do whole numbers. You're just going to multiply 2.5 by itself 3 times. 1 times 2 times 3. Now, you may be wondering at this point why I'm using these parentheses. Sometimes parentheses help you visualize problems better, okay? If we were to look at this original without the parentheses, look at this. It could very easily be confused with 2 times 5 to the 3rd. It could be very easily confused with, for some reason, just multiplying the 5/10. There's many reasons. Sometimes parentheses are just placeholders to keep everything clean. And that's how we're using them in this case. We're using them just to keep everything tidy and organized. All right, so now we have to multiply 2.5 by itself 3 times. Do I know 2.5? I should. I think I know it, but I want to make sure I get my decimal in the right place because I am quite tired. It is much later in my day than it is in your day right now. So 2.5 times 2.5, double checking my work. Yeah, it's 6.25. All right, so we're just going to funnel problem this down below that ugly line, and we're going to write 6.25, and then bring down the other one that we haven't used yet. And then I'm just going to get some clarification parentheses in there. Our third step will be to just multiply these two together to get our answer. So I already have, ooh, don't go away. I already have 6.25 in my calculator. So I'm just going to go ahead and multiply that by another 2.5. And it gives us this number, 15.625. 15.625. And that is all. Okay, so remember guys, calculator is totally okay at this level of math, and it's actually sometimes encouraged. First of all, I'm going to say I completely forgot to edit this, but the format of this next problem is terrible. So we're going to not look at that. Okay. All right. So the problem that we are going to do is 7 to the 0 power times, let me cross my 7 and my 0, 4 squared. That's the problem that we are doing. 7 to the 0 power times 4 squared. So if you think back to PEMDAS, I'm not going to rewrite it this time. We do already know that exponents come before multiplication in the order of operations. So first thing we're going to do is the leftmost exponent, and it is 7 to the 0 power, my favorite power because it's 1. And then let's bring down that multiplication sign because we're not using that yet. All right, now let's expand our 4. So we're going to go 4 times 4 over here. And then we know for our next step, we just need to multiply 4 by itself. 4 times 4 is 16. And I think we're going to have a pretty easy step 2 here. So for our next step, we just need to multiply 1 and 16. And multiplication of 1 is another one of my favorite math properties because that just means itself. It's itself. If you multiply a number by 1, the answer is that number. 1 times 16, 16. All right, guys, that is our lesson for today. Today, comparatively to our usual go overtime math classes, was a little bit short, so you guys have some time right now after your exit ticket. Don't leave class right away. Stick around in case you need some help. You can ask the sub, you can ask your classmates. I want you guys, after you finish the exit ticket, provide an answer in the Q&A, and then go open up your OLMS lesson 1.05 and start working on those practice problems. All right, that way if you have any additional questions, you can ask them now instead of having to wait until I come back next week. All right, I'll see you guys on the last slide. And here we go. This is going to be your exit ticket for today. It's going to be 3 to the 3rd power minus 5 to the 0 power. Remember to expand and remember the properties of 0. All right, sub, you can go ahead and close me out now. Pull up the exit ticket on another screen. And then you guys, as soon as you finish this exit ticket, don't go running for the little red door. Wait until class is over. Start working on your homework for tonight, that 1.05 practice problems. And I'm going to see you guys on Monday. Have a wonderful, fabulous, beautiful weekend. And don't forget to get outdoors.